All right, welcome everyone. Today is May the 3rd. This is 2023, and this is our All Lives Matter call with Dr. Loyd and Dr. David Peck. My name is Johanna Chan. Before we hear from them today, I want to share this disclaimer. This presentation is for education and informational purposes only, and since we're going to be talking about issues of health and well-being, we wanted to make sure that you understand this information is not intended to heal or cure anything. Everything in the presentation are the opinions of Alex Loyd, David Peck, myself, or you if you choose to share. You should always check with a licensed healthcare provider about any specific health concerns you may have. All right, guys, take it away.
Thank you so much, Johanna. I'm Alex Loyd. The good-looking guy in the middle is Dr. David Peck. And today we are doing number 2 on a new series. We just finished a series. Now we're starting a new series that I'm excited about. I've never done a thing on this in my entire life, okay? Even though I love it, I think it's wonderful. In fact, I'm not sure how I haven't done something on it before, but I'm very glad to be doing it now. So this is week 2. If you missed last week, you can go back and catch up. It's posted. But I'll throw it to Dr. David. This was his idea, and he'll tell you what we're talking about today, and then I'll maybe add a post-it note to what he says. Then we'll do a custom healing intervention, so you can use this to heal these issues in yourself. And then we'll take some questions or comments if we have time. So go ahead, Dave, take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Alex. So yeah, this is last week we did the first of the 7 deadly sins, and that was fool's pride or vainglory, and not to be confused with good pride, and which is self-respect. So this week we're on to number 2, and the order is, we've modified the order a little bit, but number 2 is envy.
Oh, Dave, wait a minute. I'm so disappointed. You don't have a hat for this one.
No, unfortunately, yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
That was last week only. Right.
If you don't know what we're talking about, last week, Dave actually had an embroidered hat about that deadly sin. It was really cool. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, definitely. That was great. It said self-respect on the front, and on the back it says, do the healing code. So, envy, number 2. In subsequent weeks, we will be doing wrath or anger is number 3. 4 is greed. 5 is sloth or laziness. 6 is gluttony, excesses. And 7 is lust. So this week is envy. So I think envy is pretty clear. It's resentment or discontent with desire for possessions or qualities of another. So looking at another person and being desirous. So, my story with envy really goes back to growing up. I came from a very sort of competitive Korean. My parents immigrated from Korea after or towards the end of the Korean War, and were part of a cohort of Koreans that were allowed into the country that were professionals, were medical professionals. At the time, the country was short on doctors, and so there was the door was open for doctors, and my parents both came to the United States, but the competition was difficult. They didn't speak English well. They had many difficulties, and I was really raised in a situation of constant comparisons. So we were constantly being told, oh, look what Johnny went to Harvard, and so-and-so's daughter went to here and that. And so there was a lot of this comparison and sort of it was feeding envy. And I would say that much of what we get from society these days is really to promote envy more than anything else. Well, so what happened was in college, actually, this is where things really changed for me. I met a person, one of my, I don't even know what to call him. He changed my life in so many ways. He was a Sagittarius. I'm an Aquarius, sun. I think that was a combination of the fire and the air, and just fed each other. But he was the person who started me meditating and sort of had a spiritual awakening at that time. And this guy he was one of these, he was from a French Canadian family, a very wealthy family. And I went to Dartmouth College, which is, an Ivy League school that was up in the Northeast, up in the, what they're called the White Mountains in New Hampshire and Vermont. And this was an area that was very secluded, but boy, we had so many rich kids up there. I mean, really, this is old wealth. I graduated with Nelson Rockefeller Jr., just for example, and all these really, yeah, they used to get drunk on our, I don't know, I should say too much on our hard way, because I lived with the Deerfield boys. They were actually going to school away from their home, starting in high school. They would go to these academies, and Deerfield was one of the big ones. And so, there were guys that were living on my hallway as a freshman, and they used to come by and everything. But what happened was, what he taught me was to be into your own thing. Just get so into your own thing. And then what would happen would, other people would be wondering what you were into, because you were so into your own thing. And this guy used to drive. He had a little Ford Escort with a dog named Stony, but he used to drive through the White Mountains area and write about the poverty that was in the area. There was widespread poverty. I had no idea that, what the extent it was, because, I'm at this very wealthy, rich college in the middle of the White Mountains, but in that area, he took me to some of those places. It was white. They were white people, not, colored people, white, black people, white poverty. And just another, it's just a paradox, because, he was so wealthy. I remember one time he took me to his like summer home or something. Like, this was a secluded area on a cape where you'd see there were only maybe 4 or 5 of these giant house mansions on the shoreline. You'd go out for a walk on the beach, you wouldn't see anybody. You might see one person, walking his dog or something. This was, the type of person, the wealth that he came from. And yet he was going around, editorializing or reviewing and raising awareness of the poverty in the White Mountain areas of Vermont. But that was the main point, was that get into what you're doing. You when you're so focused, and I took this with me the rest of my life. Actually, this is one thing I continue even today, is that you just focus on what you're doing. And then other people will wonder. And I just give you one other, sort of motto that I took when I was, because I've been in New York City for, close to 30 years. And when I started as a resident, as an intern in general surgery there at St. Luke's Roosevelt, there was so much going on in New York. There's all kinds of everything you could ask for, it, like lots of it. And so the real motto that I remember and I held on to while I was there was the exact opposite of what we spoke of several weeks ago, which is FOMO, fear of missing out. My motto was never be afraid that you're missing out of something else. You just stay on what you're into. And so, that's my sort of takeaway message for just in general, is that, don't worry about the other guy, what they're doing, everything. Just get into what you're doing. And then that's where all the magic happens. And that's all the keys. So I think that's probably, I'll pass it to you, Alex, if that's my story.
Yeah, I love that, Dave. I love that. Get so into your own thing. I've never heard that before. That's brilliant. One thing that kind of my experience with envy, I don't remember any envy before I started to school. I really don't. I loved my life. I loved everybody. Everybody loved me that I knew of. And I mean, I can remember things like, I love Coca-Cola, and Coke was kind of a treat back then. I mean, today it's not a treat. Back then it was a treat. You didn't have it every day.
Wait, I thought it was Dr. Pepper.
Well, I love Dr. Pepper. That's my favorite. But
Okay.
yeah, so but Coke is the generic term. I mean, I talk to people from up north and in the West, and they say soda. Well, in the South, we never said soda. We said Coke. But Coke meant any of them. It meant Sprite, Coke, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi. Coke was the generic for any of them where I grew up. So yeah, it was Dr. Pepper specifically. But I can remember, being 4 or 5 years old, seeing a kid drinking an ice cold Coke or Dr. Pepper or something, and thinking, I wish I had that Dr. Pepper. Now, you can call that envy. I think it's just a little kid who wants a Coke, okay? But as far as adult envy, the first time I remember that is after starting to school. And all my problems came. I was dyslexic. I did poor in school. I was made fun of for my looks, some other things too. Okay. And I remember envying my two brothers. They were both older than me. One was 16 years older than me. One was like 18 years older than me, old enough to be my father. And once I didn't envy them before school, but once I started to school and I realized that I was made fun of for the way I looked. Well, they were slim and trim and good looking and never had acne or anything like that, and dated pretty girls and all of that. None of that was true of me at that age. Okay. I was made fun of for the way I looked. So the first envy I remember was my brothers over how they looked now and their popularity. Now, they were never mean to me. So it didn't have anything to do with the way they treated me. It was just, I guess that helped, but it was just that they had something I didn't have. And that something was causing me great pain every single day at school. Okay. Now, so that's my first experience, if anybody cares. All right. But here's really what I wanted to share. And I'd ask you to just not to come to a conclusion on this quickly. Take your time. And here's what I'd like you to think about. You can't have and want at the same time. Okay? You can't have and want at the same time. Would you rather have or would you rather want? Okay? You need to answer that question. Would you rather have or would you rather want? Okay. Well, so how can you do that if there's something you have and don't need? Well, but you want it. Well, what the research says is about 98% of what we want, we don't need. We just want. Okay? So the magic for me is when I learned for Alex that if I want what I have, it eliminates wanting. And if you eliminate wanting, you eliminate envy. And I really think, Dave, that's just another way of saying that same thing that you said, that get so into your own thing that you really just don't care about that stuff because you're so into your thing. This is really just another way of saying that. If you want what you have, it eliminates want and it eliminates envy. And what you get from it is gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation, contentment, patience. All of that stuff you get if you make the decision to want what you have. Now, you're thinking, but what if I really do need something in the future? Well, that's not what I'm talking about. If you really do need something, yeah, figure out a way to go get it, okay? But 98%, that's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
98%, you don't need it. You just want it. Well, that wanting creates stress. Having eliminates stress. So if you want what you have, you just eliminated your stress over that thing. Okay. So we're going to do a code to heal the source and help you do that.
And
Yeah.
I just want to just add one thing, because we're so agreeing with each other. But why then is it that 98% of people, or of the time, want what they don't need? What we don't need? And I would have to say it has a lot to do with what's going around us, what's being fed into us, what the TV is telling us, what society is telling you. Have to, it's almost like, be the envy of your whole neighborhood. You know, they're telling us that we encouraging envy. So just let's be aware of that. Those messages that are being fed to us are the exact opposite of what we really need.
Yeah, and I think that's true, and I think some of it is just our stimulus response belief system that we're programmed with. Okay. I mean, think about this. I grew up in sports, and I know Dave did too. Michael Jordan, who is largely considered the best basketball player that ever lived. There's debate over that. Some people think it's LeBron James or Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain or whatever. But anyway, it's a debate. But he's for sure one of the best that ever played, Michael Jordan. Let me ask you a question. Not Dave, but you listening. Do you think Michael Jordan woke up every morning, and as soon as he woke up, he was like, yes, I'm Michael Jordan? Think that's what he did every morning? Well, let me answer it for you. No, he did not do that. Okay. He woke up in the morning, and after thinking about, going to the restroom and getting dressed and maybe taking a shower, brushing your teeth, getting something to eat, whatever, what he likely thought of was his next goal that he does not have yet, to score X amount of points or to get another championship or whatever. Well, a lot of us would envy Michael Jordan or someone like that, and we would think, oh man, if I was ever had that life, man, I'd never want for anything. I'd be so happy, so content. So it's not true. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not true. I have counseled with billionaires, with multimillionaires, with many star pro athletes and things like that. Okay. Let me tell you, they are the most messed up people I've ever worked with. Most of them are paranoid that they're going to lose their looks or lose their fame or lose their money or lose their, I mean, it was always one thing and then another when I work with those people. Now, some of them are content, but the ones that are content, they don't care about the money. They don't care about the fame. They're doing it, like Dave said, because that's what they love. That's what they're into. And they don't care about the other stuff. Okay. But most of them are paranoid about the next thing not happening or the bad thing happening. Okay. So Dave, does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And that goes along with the whole idea. And this is from your book and your teachings is with the patient's category, the stress versus the success goals.
Right.
So the growth model is another way of talking. We just want to get as good as we can at what we're doing. We're not trying to,
But I totally understand it, because I'm always thinking, if I could just be like David Peck, man, I'd never want anything else. If I could
likewise, Alex.
Yeah, so I totally get it. Dave, you want to start the code?
Sure. Yes, totally. Okay.
Unless you want to add something else.
No. That's good. That's great. Okay. So this is a code for envy, systemic envy. We pray, we request that all destructive, negative cellular memories, unhealthy habits and addictions, false limiting beliefs, and relationships that are related to envy in any form be found, opened, and healed through love, light, truth, and God.
Amen.
Okay, and the first position is both hands in the bridge for systemic envy. Both hands bridge. Second position, left hand bridge, right hand Adam's apple. Left hand bridge, right hand Adam's apple. Okay, third position, just switch. Left hand Adam's apple, right hand bridge. Left hand Adam's apple, right hand bridge. Okay, fourth position, both hands jaws. Both hands jaws. Okay, back to first position, both hands bridge. Both hands bridge, position one. Do one more cycle. Both hands bridge. Second position, left hand bridge, right hand Adam's apple. Left hand bridge, right hand Adam's apple. Okay, third position, left hand Adam's apple, right hand bridge. Just switching the hands. Left hand Adam's apple, right hand bridge. for systemic envy. Part 2 of the 7 deadly sins. And position 4, both hands, jaws, both hands, jaws. Okay, that's 2 cycles. Yep. We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
My dog was barking and muted my thing. All right, thank you, Dave. Let's go to acupuncture points, side of the hand, collarbones, chin, little finger, eyebrows, index finger, under the eyes, under the nipples, middle finger, under the nose, under the arms, thumb, middle of the chest, sore spot, 9G. Eyes open, closed, open, eyes down to the left, down to the right. Circle your eyes, circle back the other way. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mm-hmm. Please activate governing and conception vessel 3 times. 3 times. If it hurts, you're pushing too hard. Calms the central nervous system. Okay, now to healing centers. Let's start with throat. Please open and harmonize. If it hurts, you're rubbing too hard. Base or root on the pubic bone. Please open and harmonize. Heart. Please open and harmonize. Forehead. Please open and harmonize. Middle of the stomach. Please open and harmonize. Crown. Please open and harmonize. Under the belly button. Please open and harmonize. And then let's do left hand brainstem, right hand forehead. Left hand brainstem, right hand forehead. This is conscious, unconscious, subconscious, and ancestral mind. Your entire mind. Pouring energy into it to pull the lies and falsehoods and fear out and pour love and joy and peace in and truth. both hands over the heart. Slow, deep breaths, one after the other. Let the code process. If you got a 0 to 10 to start, when you're ready, take a look at that and note any change. And I would also take a look at it in about 30 minutes when it should be better than it is now. And Johanna, I can hang around for a few minutes if we have any questions or comments.
Okay, so if you have a question or comment and you're on the phone, you can press *9. That's going to raise your hand. I'm going to unmute the first caller, which is Annie. If you want to unmute your line.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Dr. David. Hi, Johanna. Thank you so much for taking my call. Alex, and David, I actually had 2 questions. I'll make them really quick. The first question is I've been doing my healing codes for a while now, about 10 months. And I guess that's not a while. You've been doing it for 20 years, but, and I'm working with a coach. She's amazing. And I've just had a question sort of about the healing process. Sometimes I find it's like, wow, I'm feeling so great. And then other times I'm like, wow, I'm having the same symptom that I did. I almost feel like before I started the codes. I just kind of was curious as to, is this considered detoxing or recircling, or is the code not good anymore?
Yeah, it's a good question, Annie. Typically, it is a Herxheimer's reaction, what in energy medicine is called a healing crisis, what I call a healing response. It's in all types of health, not just natural health. And it's that phenomenon where you get better, you get worse before you get better. And in natural health, it's very often toxins like mercury and pesticides and herbicides and things like that that have either been on your food or you breathed in or touch or absorbed somehow. And your body does its best to get those things out through the sweat and the bowel and urine and things like that, but it can't always get them out. And if our immune system is compromised because of stress, it really can't get them out. So then it tries to isolate them, like in bones or in a cyst that comes up. Very often there's toxins in that cyst. In fat cells, a lot of people don't realize the body stores toxicity in fat cells. So the more fat, the more toxins, the less fat, the less toxins. Very often, if you go on a diet and start losing weight, there will be days when you don't feel very good. And that's typically when the fat cells that had mercury or pesticides or herbicides, those are being broken up, and those toxins go into your bloodstream on the way out of the body. But mercury in your bloodstream, you're going to feel it. Okay. So, yeah, that's a healing response, healing crisis. So it could be that. The way to tell for sure if it's a healing response is this. It's 4 steps, I believe. You do a code and feel worse. You stop the code and feel better. You start the code again and feel worse again. You stop the code again and feel better again. If you go through that, and that's what happens, it is a healing response. And you can either back off or you can try to push through. If that's not what happens, it's probably coincidental. In standard medicine, when that happens, it's usually a side effect. Now, in natural medicine, there aren't typically a lot of side effects. There's healing responses. But in standard medicine, it may also be a side effect. Dave, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I wanted to make a point of clarification because I believe Annie was talking about a situation where she had already healed something, and later, months later, et cetera, that symptoms had recurred. Am I correct in saying that, Annie? Or
yeah, it's similar. It's like, I'll have, a couple of weeks where it's like, wow, I think the symptom is gone, and then it'll come back, and sometimes it'll come back worse than I had it before.
That simply means it's not healed yet.
Right, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
When it's completely healed, it won't do that.
Right.
Okay.
And then my question also, my question also to you, Annie, is when it comes back weeks later, do you find that it's of less shorter duration or less intensity? Because that also would, that's indicating that it hasn't completely healed, it has partially healed. And that I find very common actually, is that
It is.
you
Yeah,
heal
that's
it the first time, that when it comes back, it's not quite as much, but it's similar, then go back at it again, maybe even with the same process that you used the first time.
right.
Okay. Yeah. It's just, you know what it is? It just ignites an anxiety response. I'm like, oh no, it's coming back. And then doubt starts. And then I start to sort of spiral. But I'm learning to just sit with the emotions, let the emotions come up, because I think they're coming up because they need to be healed and I haven't healed them. Okay. Thank you. I know this, it's a process of patience, and I'm just trusting the Lord. And it's like, I'll be healed when he says it's time.
Yeah.
Which is hard sometimes. My second question is, have you, either of you, ever heard of the medical medium? Okay. And it's funny because I was a follower of his several years ago. And to be blunt.
No, not a particular person. I thought you were talking about like a class or group, not a particular.
Oh, okay. There's a guy named Anthony William, and he's very, very, very popular. I followed his protocols, a couple years ago. Anyway, he came up in a Vanity Fair article, and it just sort of brought back all of these really unpleasant memories that I was, that I had when I followed his protocol. And the part that I don't understand, he says he hears a voice that calls itself spirit, and the spirit says that he isn't God, but he's just beneath God, which to me is like, well, I have my own ideas who I think that spirit really is. But the thing that I'm just so perplexed by is when I did his protocols, I felt worse than I'd ever felt in my life. But for every, one negative review of him, you will have 10,000 positive reviews. I mean, this guy is almost, to me, comes across a little bit like a cult leader. I know he's helped people, but it's just very interesting to me. So I was just curious if you had,
I'd like to say something though, that I was wanted to say this before actually, but you stimulated this conversation, is that, when I look at our own thing, what we're doing, we're not getting a huge following. But the point of the matter is, I would not expect us to have a huge following because of what we're about. You're asking people to heal your traumas at the source in a real way. So, the people that actually do follow, that come on, you're all very unusual, actually, but that's today. And we're way ahead, in my opinion, we're way ahead of the curve. And this is something that people are in time going to realize, because, the fact of the matter is, to get you to the point where you're actually ready to do some real healing with the healing code, you have to hit rock bottom almost, and that's the only way. So, the people that are real unpopular, that's fine. I have no problem with that, but I'm not surprised of the modest following that we have. That's what I would expect, actually.
Yes, I agree. I was sort of thinking this is a real deal because you guys don't have 400 million followers.
Yeah, I'll weigh in on that just a little bit. In 2 Corinthians 11 in the Bible, it talks about Satan masquerading as an angel of light. And we don't have examples, if you believe in Jesus and the Bible and stuff like that. We're not really told that we converse with angels, or we're told that we can have communication with the Holy Spirit, with God through prayer, Jesus, who we're one with, and other living people and believers. As far as what you're describing, I really don't find that in the New Testament of the Bible. And the passages I find that speak to things relevant to it are more like the one in 2 Corinthians, where it's more of this is usually a red flag, not a good flag. So I would just try, talks about testing the spirits. And I would for sure do that, because I've known so many people that got sucked into a cult innocently and were never the same again. So I don't know what that is, but those are my off the cuff thoughts. And I'm going to have to run. I love you guys.
Thank you so much.
Love
Thank
you, Alex. All right. Okay, we have another question. I'm going to open it up for you. This is from April. April, you want to unmute your line?
Hey, sorry, I don't have a question. I'll let the next person come up.
Okay.
All right,
Oh.
talk to y'all later.
Okay, we have another April with her hand up.
It's this April, sorry.
Hi, April.
I know it's confusing. So my question was this, it was similar to Annie's because I had a particular situation happen over the weekend. And that's what I kept saying to myself was, I know this is a healing response because, and I came back home and it actually happened out in public, which is horrible. But anyways, I was playing pickleball and I just kind of got really upset and I didn't know what it was from. And so as soon as I got home, I started doing my healing codes. So Annie, yes. And I kept thinking the same thing was, I thought I dealt with this and I'm like, okay, I just got to go deeper with it. Got to go deeper with it. So, and the ironic thing is I spoke to literally 4 other people that I know of, and they were going through the exact same thing on Sunday and Monday. And I'm like, what is in the air right now that's causing us all just to have these shifts? And so when I did do the healing code that I came home to, and I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I had a complete shift. And I said, and the words that came is like, I had to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. And it was pretty amazing. And I'm glad I can talk about it today. And it was just amazing that I had 4 other friends going through the exact same thing at the exact same moment. And so today, when I was doing the envy one, I normally sit and will write all the codes down as I'm doing it. And I don't think, and today I just said, you know what, I'm not gonna write them down today. I'm just gonna wait for the recording to come back. And when we did the first jaw position, my whole left side of my brain went numb.
Wow.
I mean, yes, I know, right? I mean, and so thank you so much, you guys, for thank you. And I thank myself too for coming and being present with you guys and wanting to heal and learn these things and to pass it on to all those that need it. But yes, Annie, know that I was in the same boat as you this weekend, and a half a dozen other people that I know. So
You know,
anyways.
sometimes April, sometimes I get this when I'm really into, I get like the side of my head, it's
Yeah.
like gets very cold, like cool, it cools down. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So yay. Thanks.
Thank you.
God bless
you, guys.
you. Thank you, April.
Thank you. God bless you too, Johanna. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to end the recording because we want to open the line up for anyone that would want a custom